mean, I miss regionals. I'll be honest with you. I miss regionals just because it was for me, CrossFit has always been about the community. It's what really got me hooked, and it's what everybody says. I know it's such a boring answer, but it's true. It was always about the community.
Yep.
And
All right, then I just start. Is it, since I know that you put a lot of effort in getting the names right from the competitors, is it Jacobsen, or completely different?
Well, no, I mean, it's kind of everything. I guess if you ask my mom, she'd say Mess Jacobsen. But I mean, I'm Danish. I live in Sweden. I used to live in the States for a while. So I think I pretty much answer to anything that starts with an M-A and last name with a J-A. I mean, Mats, Mateus, Matthew, you got it. I'll answer.
All right, man. Yeah, I feel like you've been around forever, man.
I think I have, yeah.
I made a lot of research, and then I saw, oh, this guy was the team coach of the invitationals for the Team Euro. And I thought, like, oh, this is like Rich Froning, Jason Kalipa times. So you've been really around forever, man.
Yes, I have. No, I think I did my first level 1 in 2004. I'd say 2004. Wow. I think in 2006, I think I started working for CrossFit HQ. So yeah, no, I mean, the first time I went to Santa Cruz, HQ was a garage, and Greg Glassman still had classes. It was crazy. And Nicole Carroll was one of the coaches as well. So everything was so small. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
How did you stumble into the scene? How did you get a hold of CrossFit?
No, but I mean, I used to do MMA. I was not very good at it, to be honest. I tried my luck at it and I got beat up a lot. And my coach at that time, he found it. He found CrossFit.com online, and he said, "Hey, you should try this." And I was like, "CrossFit, dude, they're idiots. They're doing back exercises one day and back exercises the other day. It's like they haven't figured it out." He's like, "Give it a try." So I did it for 8 weeks in preparation for a fight that I had coming up. And then after that, handed in my gloves, I was like, I'm going to do this instead. So yeah.
Man, and then you've just fallen in love and been there forever.
Yep. And I mean, at that time, there was no, in the Nordics, or in Sweden anyways, there were no CrossFit boxes.
I guess so.
And nobody'd taken a level 1. Because I mean, I started looking around, I was like, nobody's taken a level 1 in the Nordics. So I was looking at .com. I didn't know what I was doing. And so a friend of mine came along with me. We went to Denver for our first level 1 seminar. And just to give you a bit of a perspective, so Pat Sherwood was the intern at the seminar. So he wasn't even on seminar staff at that point yet. So yeah.
Wow.
Fell in love and never looked back.
Yeah. And since then it's growing, man. I don't know what was the first box in Germany, or when there was, do you know Phil Imbush and Jamie Imbush from Germany?
Yeah. So awesome. The funny thing is that Phil and Jamie are awesome. And I met Jamie at a level 1 seminar. I think it was in Holland, and I run into Phil a lot. And so I used to work for Reebok, and so Phil took over my job after I left Reebok.
Oh, really? Wow. The world is so small, man. When I think it was 2012 or 13, I did a gig for a local newspaper in Wiesbaden, and I had to take pictures of the 5 fitness trends in this year. And then I stumbled into the CrossFit box, and Phil was a coach there. And then I got to know them, and I stumbled into the world, and they were my first introduction to the CrossFit world.
That's a pretty good introduction, though. I mean, that's a pretty solid introduction.
They're amazing. I love them.
I mean, yeah, no, I still remember. You remember when they had the box in Frankfurt? And I mean, I was rocking that FRA hat and all the gear that they had. I was like, hey, Rogue better look out, because Phil's got it dialed in. I mean, he's got some sweet merch.
It was huge. It was huge. I think it was, at some point, it was the biggest box in Germany. I don't know about Europe, but in Germany for sure, it was huge.
It was pretty big. It was that we had some really good times at that box. Yeah.
Amazing. So you did level 1s there?
No. So when I was working for Reebok, we went there a couple of times and had meetings with affiliate owners, and some coaches as well. And then anytime I got an opportunity to get to hang out, I just wanted to go. So I was there a couple of times. Yeah.
Cool. And when did you stumble into commentating?
Well, so that's actually that's kind of a funny story, because what happened was that I was the regional director when regionals were in Bolton. And so it was with Carl Stedman, it was with Matthew Evans. It was just a bunch of people that were a lot of fun. And then we got there, and then it was the first year that there was an actual like kind of a budget. Reebok had just gotten on board, and everything was all set up, and it was really, really cool. So we get there, and then we start rigging everything. And the night before, this guy calls up. I think it was the night before, or is it actually it's on the same day. The guy who's supposed to be the floor announcer calls up, and he goes, "Yeah, no, I'm sick, so I'm not going to come in." We're like, "Oh shit, what are we going to do?" And I asked Carl, I was like, "Are we happy with the way things are going to be running?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, don't worry about it." So I grabbed the mic and I start just shooting off, just going off in the best way I can. And we had a blast. It was a lot of fun. The regionals were great. And then after that was the last year I was a regional director. Then Oliver Amdrup took over, and we went to Denmark for Ballet Super Arena. And Oliver, who's just doing a lot better job as a regional director than I ever could, he asked me if I wanted to be the floor announcer. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I was on the floor and I was having a blast. And then Rory McKernan came over, and he's like, "Well, dude, you should be on the live stream with me." And I was like, "You think?" And he's like, "Yeah, I really think you should." And so the year after, I tried it, and I mean, the truth is that Rory he's awesome at it. Chase is great. Tommy's great. Sean is good. Like, everybody's really good because they're pros, and they kind of made me look like I knew what I was doing as well. So I guess I just kind of stuck with it.
So you were on a front seat for the European regional like forever, I think. What do you think about the semi-final format? Like, is it the closest to regionals, or is it still different? I mean, exceptional this year, like 2 events in every semi-final the same. Is it close, or what do you think? Is it better, or do you have an opinion?
I think I mean, I miss regionals. I'll be honest with you. I miss regionals just because it was for me, CrossFit has always been about the community. It's what really got me hooked, and it's what everybody says. I know it's such a boring answer, but it's true. It was always about the community, yep. And I always thought it was a great place to meet the community. It was like I usually talk about it as like it's like going to a class reunion, but with all the people you really want to meet. Like the guys you don't want to meet, they aren't showing up. So it's just a bunch of friends all over Europe, and you get to see them, and then you get to see some more friends that are working out who are just ridiculously fit. So I miss regionals. I like the semifinals because I kind of got a little bit of the same vibe. But I mean, I miss those regionals days.
Yeah, we see what happens. It goes in the right direction, I think. Like 2 events standardized in every event. Maybe it's getting step by step back.
I mean, I understand the whole problem with regionals, and it's like, you know, you have to have the organization and everything set up, and it's really expensive. I get it, but at the same time, man, if there's some way to make that happen, then I think I'd be the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah, and also for like, if you look at it from a spectator standpoint, the Europe region always has been like stacked from fans and stuff. And especially this year, you see it, like you have the syndicate and the MAC. It was like, I don't know, maybe 100 people, and the European, like in London and in Holland, it was stacked, man. It was packed.
It was insane. I mean, and both arenas were so big, and you still felt like this is just like, wow, people going crazy. Yeah. So I thought, no, it definitely. And also from an athlete perspective, I mean, on the female side of the house, I don't think there's any discussion that Europe has always represented really, really well. Yep. On the male side of the house, I always felt like the European athletes are great, like they're really, really, really great. But you have some collegiate athletes, like some real powerhouses in the States, and you can't really compare with them because the tests my personal opinion. The tests have been kind of skewed towards, if you're a powerful athlete, you're gonna fare better than if you're a well-rounded kind of decathlon, CrossFit, the hybrid athlete. And I think now the men are starting to catch up. I mean Björkvin has been doing really, really great. You've got Jonikoski, and I mean, look at Moritz Fiebig, right? Moritz did a great job qualifying, and here's a powerhouse, but the kid can move as well. So I just thought it was really impressive to see. And so I think it's just gotten deeper. It's just, we're getting better and better and better and better. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. I was really surprised by Moritz Fiebig this year.
Dude, I loved him. When he got off that bike, I was like, he's either going to die now or he's just going to absolutely crush it.
Yeah, I was really surprised. My brother is a huge fan of him. And I was always like, I follow the scene in Germany. I follow it very closely, you know. And this year, the German throwdown, the only other big name in the field was Luka Djukic, and he crushed Moritz at the German throwdown. So I thought, oh, maybe he's not there yet. Yeah. But man, he destroyed that last workout. It was crazy.
And you know, it's like, if you look at the games a couple of times, I mean, you've got the Justin Medeiros, Matt Frasers, and the Rich Fronings, and they just kind of go out there. I mean, maybe Justin will, I don't know, Matt Frasers and Rich Fronings anyways, they go out there and they compete, and they do really, really well in everything, right? But everybody else is going to have one or two events where it's just like they go out there and they crush it. They get after it. And that's kind of where they make their mark, right? I mean, Lucas Hagberg, when he did it, it was on the run. It was the ruck run, and then the obstacle course as well. And then he kind of cemented it on the run. What was it? Echo bikes and, the yoke, right? So he just kind of got after it. And I think Moritz is going to be able to do the same thing. He's going to find those things where he's just, this is it. I'm going to throw some weight around now. And then he's not going to lose in anything else. So I think we could be in for a treat.
Yeah, I'm excited what he brings at the games. Like, I was really surprised because I had the Djukic brothers on, each separate, and Luca said something which was really like get to me. He said that no man in Europe can say that he's going to the games for sure.
No.
And that was before the semifinal. And then I thought about, oh yeah, I in my head there was no way Moritz will beat like the 5 other guys, including Luca. And then that statement just made so much sense. And I was like, oh yeah, he was right about him.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's such a humble thing to say as well. I mean, it makes me really happy when he says that, because it just shows you a bit about what kind of man he is. But he's right though. It's like, you can't walk in there and take anything for granted. I was looking at the warm-up area where everybody was, and I was just like, it's like you're watching a bunch of pariahs just they're going to eat each other in a second. It was pretty stacked.
And if you look at this year, like Jonikoski, I was thinking like, yeah, sure, he was injured, but I was like, for sure he's going. And now,
and if you look at the numbers, it's not like he had a bad event. It's not like it was bad for him. I mean, he did good. It's just everybody else did just a little bit better.
Yeah. Do you think he will destroy the last chance qualifier?
I hope so. Oh man, I've got so much love for Jon. I really want to see him. And also because I know that Emilia is going to go to the games, right? So it's like, if they can both go together, I think that'd be awesome. But also I hope he goes and absolutely crushes it. Yeah.
I hope the Europeans will make a mark on that. Like, I think like Luka Djukic and Jonikoski, they are like some of my favorites in that men's field.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think if I was the US, I'd be freaked out about what's going on in Europe. I mean, the female athletes have always been just absolute ninjas, right? Now you have all the teams as well. The teams are looking pretty darn good as well. And they did really good last year as well. Now the men aren't something you can just joke away either. So I think, you know, you've got Björkvin, you've got the Djukic brothers. Let's fingers crossed, hope both get to go. And then you've got Jon, and you've got people like Moritz who can go in there and just really mess it up for everybody else as well. I think it can be interesting.
Yeah. Were you bummed when you found out that Annie is going teams this year?
No, I was excited.
After that third place last year?
Yeah, but Absolutely. I mean, I've watched Annie. So the thing is, I've watched Annie since she started competing. Like she was actually in Stockholm for like at the very beginning of her career, when nobody knew who she, like everybody in CrossFit knew who she was, but the rest of the world didn't know who she was. She was in our apartment trying on clothes that she was going to wear for the competition the next day with my wife, who was also going to compete. So I mean, it's like the world was that small. And so I've kind of seen the progression of Annie and how she's just grown into this amazing athlete. I mean, she was amazing back then, but she's just gotten better and better and better. And I was really wondering, like, how's she going to do on a team? Because I always thought that she'd be good on a team. So when she kind of went, yeah, I'm going to go team. And by the way, here are the superheroes I'm going to be on the floor with. I was like, I want to see this. So yeah, I was pretty stoked.
Yeah, it will be fun, like seeing Rich Froning against Annie Forster, like in teams. That will be like so nostalgic, but still
Right.
like
No,
just up to date.
Cool. And also, I think if you're Annie and you know you've got a kid and you've been training for as long as you have, if you want to have some kind of longevity as an athlete, I mean, if Annie decides to go individual next year, everybody's going to go, okay, she's right up there. She's a favorite again. So I don't think that's going to change anything. It's not like she's getting away from a challenge. I think she's just going, so I haven't won that yet. I'm going to try to do that.
Yeah. You think there's a way back? Like for some reason, if she wins it with Reykjavik, do you think we're going to see her at the individuals again?
Man, I don't know. I hope so. I mean, it's just, and this is me being egotistical because I just like to see her compete. But I mean, I hope she gives it another try. But I don't know. It's because the thing is, I mean, if you look at it, she's been to the games, what, like 10 or 11 times as an individual athlete, something like ridiculous like that.
Insane.
And she really hasn't had an off season. I mean, she may get 4 or 5 weeks where she doesn't work out, but that's 11 years of pretty much functioning at the highest capacity you have, always trying to perform, always trying to get better. Now, granted, she has a great environment, she has a great coach, and she has some great sparring partners, but it's just a lot of time under tension for her. So I think, you know, I just don't want to see her break.
Yep. Yeah, that's interesting. And she has a gym.
Yep.
And everything.
And
yeah,
life changes
really interesting.
But I got to tell you, when I saw her in Amsterdam, I was so happy. She just looked, I don't know. It's just, there's something about it, the air about her. She's always been like really focused and really happy. I mean, I always get happy when I see her, but it was the way she looked then. There was just something about Annie that was kind of like, wow, she's fired up.
Yeah, I think so. And last year it's just the performance at the games was insane. I was like standing in front of the TV and was like, what?
I know, right? It was like, I looked at my wife and I'm like, did you just see what she just did? And she's like, yeah. And then you kind of went scoreboard surfing and you're like, huh, she's on the podium now. And you're like, that can't be. And then, no, it was crazy.
That look on her face when she stands up, that snatch, that's like, will be like in 20 years, we're going to see that in a commercial and we're like, oh, fuck, yes. These times.
I mean, brother, that it should be a t-shirt. I don't know if Mika, you know, way back when Miko Salo had that t-shirt when he's all standing up and there's the Finnish flag and everybody's lying down. Annie ought to have that. Just like, that's your t-shirt, right? Hey, did I just
amazing.
Yes, she did. So yeah.
Miko Salo, man. Do you think we're gonna see another European man champion soon?
I think so, yeah. I think so. I think within the next 3 years, we're going to have one.
In the next 3 years? Oh, that's a bold statement, man.
Yeah.
Who's it going to be?
Yeah, I think so. No, but
do we already see him on the floor, or is there somebody new coming up?
I think we've already seen him on the floor.
All right.
I think, no, but I'll throw it in there. I think if Björkvin gets to be healthy, and the programming at the games isn't one of these things where it's like we're always going to throw in something monstrously heavy at some point. So, but it's like it tests actual athletic capacity. I think he's going to win it. I think he is, or I think he has the potential to. Obviously, a million different things can go wrong, but I think so. And I also think, you know, Dukic. I mean, I just like the way the guy competes. Like I like the way both of them compete. It's just, I think, I think that could happen.
Yeah, the Dukic are interesting. I don't know if you look at them at their performances, like of course Luka is I don't know if he's just not as strong as Lazar, or if he's just like 1 or 2 years behind him in his progression, you know?
Yeah, no, I think it's I think it's a mentality thing. I think he goes out just a little too hard in everything he does, and so he tanks a little bit at the end. And the degree to which he tanks is percentage wise more than what everybody else deteriorates, considering like the lead that he got. So I think that's what it is, where I think Lazar is just like, it's just cerebral. He just gets out there and he just goes, trucks on, he sticks to his game plan, and he's so unfazed when he competes as well. I like that. It's just like, I don't care what you're doing. I'm going to do me, and then just goes out there and crushes it.
Yeah, and it's also like, I love it that we have brothers competing. Like when I interviewed them, that was a huge part in my brain all the time. So, do you hate it, like losing to your brother, or what is the dynamic there? And like when you watch the semifinals, like Lazar was pissed that his brother didn't make it. You could see it in his face. Like he was like standing in the interview after the event. He was like, "Yeah, this is bittersweet," and he wasn't even happy.
No.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, I like that though. I mean, I like that. Now, my brother doesn't do CrossFit at all. I'm not sure he does any kind of fitness, to be honest. But I mean, if I were able to do something like this, I would want him to do. I'd want to do it with him as well. And I think they come across as having such a healthy relationship as well. So I think, I think they're good for the sport. They're good for humans all over the world. I mean, it's just like, I want to see that.
Did we have brothers or sisters at the games some point? I'm not sure. I don't think so.
I mean, there's probably been some, but not that I can think of just off the top of my head. No. It's probably somebody, but no.
I don't know. Yeah. Why do you think is that we have so, like, in the past, we have so many like amazing talent in the women's division. And of course, we have amazing guys like Björkman. He's been on a podium like 3 or 4 times now. I don't know. Yeah. But compared to the women's, it's like, why do you think is there such a difference in Europe?
I think it's cultural, to the degree that I think we spawn better all around athletes. I think female athletes in Europe, I think athletes in Europe altogether are better at running, swimming, climbing ropes. And so they're much, much more of a hybrid of a bunch of different sports. I think what has kind of been the problem for the men is that you have these collegiate athletes who basically from high school and all the way through college, they spend a truckload of time with the barbell. And so they become freakishly strong. And I mean, they have the, American football, you got wrestling, you got all these things. Whereas, I mean, if you and I, once we kind of get through basic school, we stop doing sports because now we need to get smart. And I'm not saying
we play soccer.
Smart. Exactly. But I mean, so we just kind of stopped doing that, where I think the women, since there isn't there isn't the same kind of power output focus in the States. I think that's why it's come down to who's a better athlete all around. And I think that's where and I think culturally we celebrate. I mean, Europeans typically celebrate strong women. And we appreciate women that are strong. I mean, the ideal isn't this a size 0 model. It's somebody who's fit and who can use their fitness.
Yeah, but I mean that image, it changed. Like, I really think like in the last 10 years, it really changed. Like I can remember like in my teens, when I was at the discotheque at the weekends or something, it was completely different. And now I think even for myself, I see women completely different. Like women's bodies and what I found attractive changed completely about the last 10 years. And I think like CrossFit or functional fitness played a huge role in that.
Yeah. I think both as a sport, but also as all the brands that kind of when it got into that space, I mean, they started lifting up women who were capable. It's like, do you have abs? Well, nobody cares. I want to know if you can run, or you're big and bulky. It's like, yeah, but look at what I can do with the barbell. So it became less about the aesthetics and more about the functionality. And I think a lot of different brands, like you saw Reebok, you saw Nike, you saw Adidas, you saw that Rogue, you saw all these other brands like Fit Aid, whatever, that kind of got involved with CrossFit. They started lifting capable, strong, confident women. And I just thought it was amazing. I was like, I love this. And I think, I mean, we had a discussion about it or I was talking to a girl at Nordic about it the other day. And she's like, I just love coming here because there are no mirrors. Nobody cares what I look like. They just care that I show up. And I'm like, of course we do. Everybody just wants to see you. And she's like, yeah, but you don't know what that means to somebody like me. And she had a past of she had an image of herself that wasn't necessarily super healthy. And I was like, I didn't know. She's like, no, I haven't felt like that for years, not since I joined. And I think that made me happy above and beyond. I mean, if we never get another games champion or anything, but we get 20 women who feel comfortable with their bodies, and guys, I mean, guys are the same way. I mean, you've got all these guys with the non-existent legs but great six packs and they think that they're fit, and I'm like, I couldn't care less, dude. It's like, what can you do with it? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, exactly. Never skip leg day.
I mean, we're talking about it. I'm getting a tattoo in a couple of weeks, and it's going to say DMO, which basically is an abbreviation for display model only. So it's one of these things that you put on display, but they don't really work. And I always thought it was funny. It's one of the things that Adrian Bosman used to make fun of when we were doing the level 1 seminars together. He's like, yeah, so you don't want to be a DMO. It's like, all show and no go. And I'm like, fuck, I love that. So, I mean, I'm getting that tattoo. And I just want people to feel comfortable with a physique that allows them to live their lives and do stuff that they think is cool, rather than, yeah, I'd love to do that, but I'm not capable. It's like, what kind of fitness is that? I mean, yeah, no, that sucks.
Yeah, that was, I think it was the single most thing which drawn me into CrossFit, because it was not about the looks, but it was about your performance and what you can do. Like,
yeah. I mean, one of the stories I like telling is at the box, when we opened up the box, we had this guy that showed up. He was from Iceland, obviously, like everybody else. He used to be a swimmer, had absolutely no body fat whatsoever, and everything you told him, it was like, oh, can you do a muscle up? He's like, oh, one of these, and you're like, yeah, that's the one. All right, how about snatch? He's like, oh, shoot, one of these, and you're like, yeah, that's the one. But he couldn't do double unders, and we spent I'd say almost 3 months on trying to teach him double unders. Just couldn't get in. It just could not make him happen. I was like, I give up, dude. I don't know what to say. I've given him my best. He's like, oh, I want to compete in CrossFit. I'm like, yeah, if you're not able to do double unders, that's not going to happen. But okay, cool. And then one of these days after a class, you just heard this, shoo, 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 shoo. And then there was this girl, and she was fairly overweight, and she's standing in front of him, and he's just cheering like a little kid. He's just like, oh, I can't believe I'm doing it. I'm like, what did you say? And she's like, oh, I just told him that I used to do this and that. She's great at double unders. And he just picked it up, right? And so for the rest of his active career, he used to talk about her as his coach.
Yes.
In what other sport, in what other universe would those two people look at each other? And he was dead serious. His name is Numi Katrinason. So he went to the games. He was at invitationals. He's competed in Team World. He's been at regionals. He's been everywhere you can. But if he hadn't met that woman and they hadn't been able to,
it wouldn't happen.
That would have never happened. He would have still been at Nordic going, yeah, I wonder what happened. And I think that's what this sport does. It's like, I really don't care what you look like. Show me what you got instead. And I like that.
That's a similar story when Catherine David's daughter, when she missed the games because of the rope climb and met Bergeron because of that. Are you like disappointed about her performance this year?
No, not at all. A funny little thing when it comes to Catherine, when she missed that rope climb, was that everybody was kind of painting her out to be she was the thing that year. Everybody was looking at her, and obviously she was.
Yeah, she was leading by a bunch.
And obviously she was heartbroken, and so when everybody was just kind of getting after her, I took her away, and we went and sat under the bleachers, and we had a great little talk. And I hope she felt happier afterwards. But I think, I mean, she was kind of heartbroken, and I didn't care that she wasn't going to the games. I was more like, I hope this girl doesn't walk away from the sport now, because she's got so much potential. And obviously she continued, which is great. But no, I wasn't. I mean, I was sad. I was saddened by the performance. I was like, oh man, this can't be what she came for. But at the same time, it's like, same thing again. She's had this brilliant career that's been going on for so long. I think there are a lot of things outside of CrossFit that are taking a lot of her time and energy. And I think, she's, as long as she's going to be a part of of the sport, whether she competes at the games or not. She's going to be a beacon and an inspiration to a lot of people. And so as long as she's on the floor, I'm happy. I wasn't surprised. I was more than anything, I was happy to see her. It was, yeah, we had a good long chat and it was good.
Do you think if she would have been at the lowlands that she would have been in the top 5?
Oh,
Yeah.
the lowlands was tough. Not necessarily. I mean,
we have Horvath, Freyova, Migawa, Matilda Gans, and Lucy Campbell, I think, from lowlands.
Yeah.
But the workouts were different, I think.
They were a lot different. I'm not sure if she would have been able. I don't know. She would have definitely. I mean, it's anybody's game, but I mean, all of those. I mean, Freyova was doing a great job. I mean, just freakishly good, and Matilda Garns has been good for a long time. I saw her at the Functional Fitness World Championships, where I saw Moritz as well, by the way, and I saw Matilda there, and I was like, oh, she's scary looking, dude. So I wasn't really surprised that she was doing as well as she was. And I mean, Migawa and Horvath is like, well, wow, have a great one. so the only one out would be Lucy Campbell, and Lucy did a great job. I mean, so yeah, I think Katrin would have struggled there as well. That being said, I mean, she can beat anybody any day. It's just not her weekend.
We gotta see. Is she in the last chance qualifier? Yes, she is, or?
I think she is.
I think she was sixth, if I'm remembering right. Yeah,
I think she is in the last time. I don't know if she's going to do it though, but yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's also interesting for me. Like, this is the first year since, I don't know, since the beginning of the games that the workouts are not programmed by one single person.
Yeah.
Like Dave Castro. Do you think this is gonna make an impact at the games? Do you think we're still getting the right people there, but do you think the right person will win, or do you think it's gonna make a big impact?
Yeah, no, I think the right person is going to win. I think I love everything that Dave's done. There's no two ways about it. I think he's been amazing. But I also think that if you start looking at the programming, you have a tendency even if you're as good at programming as Dave is, I think there's always a tendency that you're going to find some things that they'll be similar. They'll have the same kind of the taste to it. They'll be the same kind of, we're going to do this, but here's the twist of doing this and this. And I think it becomes more like the same thing. You know what I mean? It's like, if you start looking at it, and I can't say that this is it, so I'm just going to philosophize. This is great clickbait, by the way, just for the fun of it. But I think if you have CrossFit games where you have the same individuals who win pretty much everything, the test is wrong, because they can't be the best at everything. There needs to be somebody who's specialized enough to go in there and rub that circle a bit. So whether that is the actual games or if that's the qualifier there that has kind of made one type of athlete get there, I don't know about that, but I think if you start looking at it, it's like, yeah, somebody is completely super dominant, there's something wrong with the test, because there is no one person that is that dominant, I think. But I could be wrong. Been wrong before.
Yeah. Matt Fraser was dominant, but he was from another planet, I think.
Exactly. And I mean, and the same thing with Rich, right?
Yeah.
But it's still like, I'd like to see them have a hard time in some of these events as well, where it's just like somebody comes out of the woodworks and it's like, ooh, that hurt. You're like, yes, sure did. And I think it was more during the Matt Fraser era. I think it was better than it was during the Rich era, because during the Rich era, he was just running things over. It was crazy. So yeah. But no, I think it's going to be interesting to see a collegiate of people. I still think that in a perfect world, Dave would still be hovering over everything, but he'd get a bunch of like events kind of shot at him, and then he'd start picking them up from somebody else and be like, yeah, this works really well with the format I'm looking for. But to have one guy program all of it and then test it, I think, it's a dangerous thing.
Yeah, we're gonna see what happens next year. I think he's back now. I'm not sure if he's gonna be involved at the games programming or what he's gonna do, but
let's see what happens after the let's just see what happens after the games. But I mean, let's see what happens. I think they used a lot of words to say that he was the new CEO. I could be wrong, but I think It's like, oh, he's going to be in charge of affiliates and international growth, and he's going to be in charge of this and that. And why not just call him the CEO right away, like in training or whatever? And then it's like, oh, what about the sport? It's like, no, we're going to keep that. But I mean, you're not going to make any kind of changes like that in an ongoing season. Obviously, that would be on the backside of the game. So I think it'd be interesting to see what happens.
I'm excited for the games, man. What do you think about the European chances? Like, who do you think will rank the highest? BKG from the men's side.
On the men's side of the house, I think Björkvin is going to be. I think he's going to be probably the highest ranked, depending on the workouts or the events. And I think on the girls' side of the house, I think, oh man, I think Horvath or Magawa, because they just looked so good. On the teams, I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think Reykjavik are going to do a great job, but if they stumble just for a second, I think Oslo are going to chew them up because they're scary. Oslo scary. Like Reykjavik, I kind of expected, but Oslo are scary. I mean, if you give the Reykjavik team like a 10K run, I don't think they're all going to fare super well. Some of them are going to do great, but I'm not sure all of them will. And the flip side of that is, you know, you have a requirement like the snatch ladder, for example, and you make it a little bit heavier, a little bit deeper, then obviously the Reykjavik are going to just crush it. So I think that's going to be interesting. But I think those are the two teams that are really going to be slugging for it.
Yeah, I can see that happen. Yeah, I'm excited for Furi Helgadottir. I think she was really impressive at the strength and depth.
I mean, she's one of these athletes. To me, she's like the Chris Spieler, but like on the female side of the house, right? Because it's like Chris has always been probably the best athlete to ever compete at the CrossFit Games, but it's just like his physical stature. It's like, hey, push the sled. Hey, but it's 200 kilos. Yes. Hey, I'm 63 kilos. I'm not going to be able to push it. And Thuri is kind of the same way. It's like she moves really well. She's great at everything. She's just not, you know, the stature that I think that gets her in a little bit of trouble. But I absolutely
she's a little bit too tall.
Yeah.
But I think at 1 year she cracked top 10, wasn't it? Or she was close. I don't remember. There was 1 year where she was like around 10 or 11 at the games, and then they did a road to the games with her, and I was really that was different than all the other ones.
Yeah,
I really like that.
She's cool though. I mean, she's really cool. You know who else I want? You know who I wanted to see at the games though? I wanted to see Adrian Muntpila. I really wanted him to go. And you know, I talked to him after the event, and he's like, "I'm not going to do the last chance qualifier. If I'm not ready, I'm not ready. That's just how it is." And just like walked off. And dude, I just want to see. I just want to see him. That guy is just. He's like
another guy.
Devil, you know, when you see those cartoons and that thing. That's him to me. It's just like so much potential and so much pure brute strength. I'd love to see that.
Another guy where I thought, okay, Moritz is not going to beat him.
Yeah.
But it was like, I think I read an interview with him, and he was saying like he made pauses and he rested at points where he didn't rest like some years ago. And I think he said like the pandemic years with just training by yourself and not going to competitions, it derailed him a little bit. He said something on the line like, I rested where I didn't used to rest. And I was kind of off. I need to compete more again against real people.
And that exactly. And I mean, I think that's an interesting point, because I think if you look at Andre Hudia, for example, so he moved away from a gym into, you know,
he trains at this house, I think.
Exactly. And so he just loves that. And it obviously works pretty well for him because he's doing pretty well. But other people, it's just like they need to be in a phone booth having a fist fight with somebody else every single training session. And I think Adrian's probably one of those guys.
Yeah. That's a nice visual.
Yeah, put him in there and the entire thing just starts spinning.
Is Adrian from Switzerland? I think so.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yes. What's the other guy from Switzerland? I had Jonas Müller on, but and the other guy stopped too. Erslinger, yes, he stopped competing. I'm really bummed for that.
No, I talked to him in Amsterdam, which is funny because there was a big screen and it kind of panned over to the audience and everybody's like, going crazy. And he's on his phone just like, and I'm like, yeah, so somebody's making sure his employer knows he's working. And then I talked to him afterwards. He's like, yes, I was answering a work email. So no, I think he started working at a bank. He's Swiss. Just
that's odd.
filling up all the stereotypes that you possibly could. No, but yeah. I mean, he's I like him a lot. We've had some good laughs.
I loved him when he competed at the games. Like he crushed the endurance stuff. It was really nice.
And nobody's
on the bikes
coming either.
Yeah, man. The only
favorite. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
No. Let's do it.
No, one of my favorite events was like when they were riding the bikes at the games, and you saw all the Europeans, and they just went out ahead and just went doof, 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 doof. And so everybody knew how to ride a bike to start with. I haven't gotten anybody to admit it, and it's still I still swear to God that they must have had a conversation where it's like, so we're just going to take turns leading it. We're not going to let anybody else in here. And they just went trucking. Yep. And then on the last lap, it's like everybody for himself, and they just went poof. That was one of the. I loved watching that. It was hilarious.
It was a Tour de France, but
trying to get in there, and everybody's like, not going to happen, and started switching the other way. And then he's like, he switches sides, and then they start switching the other way again. I thought it was awesome. One of the best things ever.
That was Tour de France, but with big guys.
Yes. That is such a great way to explain it.
Exactly. It was so good. I love that. Yeah, the only other person which I wanted to pick your brain on is Sigmundsdottir. Like, will we ever see her healthy and back at this level? Like, I remember like in 2015 when she bumped on the scene, like I think she won like 3 or 4 off-season events.
Yeah,
competed like crazy. She was everywhere, and I thought, this is the future. She's gonna be the next one. And then she just got injured, and things happened like every year.
Yeah, no, I think we're all gonna see her again. I think this was a super important step for her on her way back. I mean, because I looked at her when she came on the floor for the first event. And she just looked focused like she used to be, like exactly that period of time where she's like, oh shit, you're afraid that she's going to kill something. And then I spoke to her afterwards, and she's just like, the injury just kind of made me not, I mean, she's like, my numbers aren't where they're supposed to be. So I'm just not strong enough. So every time I go, even on lighter reps, I used a percentage-wise too much of my total strength to perform even light repetitions. So I can't maintain the same cycle time. So she was pretty cerebral about why she ended up where she ended up. And I was like, I don't really care about your placement. Are you healthy? Are you good? And she's like, I'm great. I just haven't been able to train the way I used to. So she's like, this was a great place to kind of, put down the gauntlet and then start working from there on. So I think we're going to see her again. I think mentally she's in a better place than she's been in a long time. And if she's physically not hurting, and she kind of looks at this as kind of like just measuring where she's at, I think we've got another couple of good years in her.
She just needs more time. So this season got too early.
But exactly. I mean, kind of doing what Adrian's doing now. So just kind of cruising the world and doing some cool events and getting some competitions in, and then also making sure that she isn't kind of expending too much energy, and she can really kind of train the way she wants to. And I think she's going to be great. I think she's going to be really, really good.
Awesome. I would love to see that.
So I know, right? Wouldn't that be cool to see her back, that badass girl again?
Yeah. I think also her vibe, like her clothing line and everything, it's like she's like the rock and roll athlete these days.
Yeah.
I really like that. Like the heavy metal person.
Yeah. That was like she's just not afraid of anything. She's just like 0 fucks given. Here you go. I just like that about her.
What was, with all your years at commentating and around these events, what was the craziest performance you see in all these years?
I think, oh man, the craziest. This is the craziest thing was the final event when Team World beat Team USA in Berlin. That has got to be the most insane experience I've ever been a part of in any way, shape, or form. It was just like everybody just went nuts. Like the audience was just like, everybody went crazy. Tegel was just about like the roof was coming off the place. And everybody's like, yeah, Team USA, they're gonna do great, and they're gonna do great. And then you just kind of saw it, like Team Europe just went on the last lunges. And you can see Matt Chan was just going absolutely nuts over here. And everybody's like, what the hell's going on? You know, Team World just kept on trucking. That was probably the wildest experience I've ever been a part of in any way. So yeah, that was kind of cool. And then afterwards as well, it's like the press conference. Before, everybody's like, any questions for Team World? And they're like, how do you like Germany? And we're like, we really enjoy Germany. What do you want us to say? They're like, come on. And then it's like, questions for Team World. And they're like, oh, Rich, this, Matt Chan, how you doing? And all. So it's just a truckload of questions. And afterwards is like, press is just like, what just happened? We're like, we won. What do you think just happened? Did you see the event? I mean, it's a trick question. So I thought that was kind of funny. That was probably the wildest experience ever.
Yeah, the invitations were really fun. What do you think about the IF3 and the Worlds and Europeans? Do you see like this is gonna be a thing some years along the path?
I think, I mean, I think first of all, I think the thing is, when I looked at it first, I thought it was competitive towards CrossFit. I was like, man, are they trying to compete with CrossFit? Is that really what it is? Is that really that smart? And then I just realized it was like, it's a completely different sport. It is something completely different. And what I thought was interesting was that CrossFit athletes are doing great at those events. And the people who do great at those events typically place really well at CrossFit events too. So it's like, huh, really? So I think they're not at odds. I don't think there's a problem between the two. I think what it is like it's a great place to kind of test abilities, where it's just like, this is an endurance event. So is my endurance good? So if I were a CrossFit athlete, I'd probably be doing them as well, just to be like, okay, so I did great at this event, I did great at this event, I did horrible at those two. I need to put some time into that, because that's a harder thing to test in a CrossFit environment, because there's always going to be, oh, there's gymnastics, and then there's the assault bike, and then there's something else. So I think the first thing to kind of wrap my head around was that they're not competitive. They're just kind of two chapters of the same book. And then I started you start looking at Norway, right? Their teams are doing great. Their individual athletes are doing great. And I'm like, CrossFit, and I mean, it's pretty obvious that I love CrossFit with a passion that's hard to understand. But I mean, I do, but it is still a company, you know, for the ups and downs, and we know everything that happened with Greg and everything that happened with Dave and all the things that have happened over the years. I think it's still a company, whereas the I3F, I think that's the problem. I never know what their name is. It's the IF3, the I3F, the
IF3.
Exactly. It's like, I never know who they are, but it's like, but where I think like that's an organization, right? It's and that comes with a whole different infrastructure. So at least in the Nordics, once you get to a certain level, you then get access to the things that Olympic athletes will have, like test facilities, nutritionists and physios and all of that stuff, where it's like, that's some good stuff. But as CrossFit athletes, we're never going to be allowed into that. So I think what happens is that I think they need to stop competing with CrossFit and be like, yeah, so this is kind of something different. It's more like, if you're good at CrossFit, you're probably going to be good at what we do as well. And if you're good at what we do and you haven't tried CrossFit, hey, how about just tapping over there? Because I think the only thing that's going to happen is that both communities are going to rise and get better. So I hope, I hope it grows, and I hope they kind of start feeding off of each other rather than going. Honestly, I don't think CrossFit cares about them right now. I mean, I couldn't imagine that they go, oh, I wonder what they're doing and whatever it is they're doing. But I think they should be looking at CrossFit and just going, some good stuff, dude. You should try this as well.
Yep. Kind of similar with what CrossFit did to weightlifting, when you think about it. Yeah. And for the athletes, it's only good that there's more opportunity, like to get better, to earn more money, to whatever, get coaching, like. And what I really like about it is the nationality thing, you know. Like, for sure, if you go to the games, you're competing under a flag, but it's still like really individualized. if you sure, teams are a little bit different, but like the individuals, it's still like you care for the individual and not necessarily where it comes from. And that's different at the IF3. I think it's fun, like that you see like Team Germany compete against Team Norway or whatever it is. Like I really like that. But I'm European, you know. We've been competing in that scenario like forever. Like
No, I think you're right. But I also think if I look at it from a commercial perspective, and if I'm an athlete, it's like, okay, so and let's say that you're a great athlete. You walk in, or let's even better, let's pretend, because this is so outlandish, that I'm a great athlete and I walk into you and you're a very successful businessman. And I go, hey, I'd like a sponsorship. And you're like, okay, so what is it that you do? Well, I do CrossFit. Well, what's that? Well, so it's kind of everything that you can think of. And then some things that you can't think of is like, okay, well, that sounds sexy. So tell me, what do you do? It's like, well, so I went to semifinals this year. So I did the Open, and then you need to explain the Open. And then I went to the semifinals. It's not really the European Championships, but it's kind of the European Championships because I made it to the games, which is kind of like our World Championships. Is like, you've probably lost interest way back. Exactly. But if it's like you walk in there and you go, yeah, so I represented Germany in at the European Championships, the World Championships, and we're trying to find out if we can get into the Olympics. It's like, oh, so you're on the national team, you said. Great. Let's talk about your exposure in your channels and what. It's a different thing. Yep. And then obviously, as you said, there's a pride to it. I mean, I want to compete with my flag on my chest. It means something to me because, like you said, I'm European as well, and it's like, I think it's there is honor to that as well. I mean, you stand up for the national anthem and everything. I just really appreciate that.
Yep. And there was a time like when they tried to push this at the games, like when the national champions this year with all the ceremony and things. I thought that this is odd. Like this is not how you do it. But no. Mads, I'm looking at the clock. I think I have to let you off the hook.
No, but I think to your point, imagine if in the UFC, right, you still have your flag on your shorts and on your t-shirt.
Nobody cares.
But nobody really cares. It's still like, hey, I want to see this guy beat this guy up, right? And CrossFit to me is kind of like the same thing. It's like, let's not, I mean, to me, that don't do that. Just lift Matt up and let him know he's an awesome athlete. And when Justin takes over, hey, you're a great athlete, but that's it. Yeah. And we can have a flyby with the jets that they had in Los Angeles as well. Kind of thought that was cool.
I think it's only natural. Like in the US, it's always been this way. Like if you look at the NBA or football, whatever it is, like they really care about the athlete and not like where he comes from. Like, doesn't matter. It
kind of appeals to something we talked about earlier. It's like, I don't care what you look like. I don't give a shit about your abs. Just show me what you can do.
Yeah. But it's also different. Like if you look at Europe, of course, there's going to be like, because everything is so, compared to US, it's so small and the countries are so close by. And of course it's like, so, okay, we're going to compete. The Germans gonna compete against the Polish or whatever it is. Like in the US, it's not like, oh, I'm from Boston and you're from New York. We're having a rivalry. So it's just not like that. Yeah.
Oh, Arizona went crazy at Oregon. I mean, if you're not a college athlete, then nobody cares, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, nobody cares. The
Cardinals
Mads can get after the Rams and it's cool.
I have no idea what's that about.
Oh, that's American football. The NFL. I'm a sucker for the NFL.
Oh, really? I've never followed it.
Well, I lived in the States a couple of years, so it kind of came with that experience. So no, I like it. I think it's interesting.
What other sports are you following?
Like I follow the NFL religiously. So I really like the Rams. I think they're awesome. I think the combines, so the tryouts to get into the NFL is probably the most exciting thing in the world, just to watch young, promising athletes go through a series of tests. I like that. I do follow the UFC, fairly religious as well. But except for that, it's CrossFit, and some more CrossFit. I mean, if you start looking at my social media, And it's like everybody I follow is like they're somehow related to CrossFit. It's insane.
Yeah.
Pretty much that's pretty much the only thing I look at.
Yeah, but it's interesting. Like for me, it also like it really took over. Like I think even like 5 years ago, you could ask me anything about soccer in Germany, but I couldn't care less now. No. I mean, irgendwie also the pandemic, like it really pushed I'm not interested in that stuff anymore. No. I don't know why, but it's like,
dude, I love you for that. Sweden had a national game the other day against somebody. I still don't know who, but everybody in the office was all fired up and they had the Swedish little jerseys on and we're gonna go see the game. And I was like, oh, who's playing? And they're like, Sweden. And I'm like, what sport? And they're just like, what? I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know. I'm like, it's game season. What? I don't know. And they're like, it's soccer. I was like, that's nice. Are we good? And they're like, Jesus Christ. And then just walked off. And I'm like, well, the semifinals are still they just stopped. The last chance qualifiers are going on right now.
Yeah.
We're going in the game season. I couldn't care less about whatever it is you're looking at. Yeah, no, I
exactly.
Didn't get the points.
Mads, thank you for being on.
Dude, thank you for having me. I'm